Welcome, everyone. It is 9 o'clock. Let's begin our Water Committee meeting. And today we had on the schedule a review of document access and WebEx, but because of the situation we're in right now, we will postpone that until Thursday. It works better if everybody's in the building and we can help each other explain how to get access to everything. So we're going to put that off until Thursday. But on the menu today is an informational hearing, and it's on the org chart. And if you'll remember, we sent that out. It's the color-coded organizational chart. That's what we'll be going over. And who from research, is it Victoria this morning that will be speaking, or who?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? You can hear me? Can you hear me in the room?
Still cannot hear you. We had this trouble last week as well, not able to hear Victoria.
Will someone else on WebEx try speaking? I don't think it's just me, but I think it's the room.
Still cannot hear you, Victoria.
I can hear you. Check 1, 2.
Tech guy just left the room. He'll be back in a moment. We'll
I'm here.
see if he can help out.
Adam, I think that everyone on WebEx can hear me. It's just the room that's the problem.
I'll text him now.
Thanks, Damien.
Damon, if you could call down to IT and tell them we're having troubles. Thank you. Chris, would you unmic and see if we can hear you, to see if it's just a localized problem or a general?
Yep. Can anyone hear me?
Can't hear you either.
Yeah, it must be the committee room then.
And the rest of you hear him, but I cannot. Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
I can hear everybody speaking, yes.
We've got a problem here. They can hear each other, but we cannot hear them in the room when they're speaking. They can hear me, but I cannot hear them, but they can hear each other. So I don't know what's going on. Well, Victoria Potts is not muted. She's supposed to be giving a presentation, but we cannot hear her in this room. They can hear each other out there, but we can't hear them in here.
Victoria?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So as Representative Highland said, my name is Victoria Potts and I'm with Legislative Research. And as he also mentioned, we'll be going over the rainbow chart or the water organizational chart that hopefully we're all able to find either in your email or on the committee page. So that first sheet or the first page of the rainbow chart is just the color key. So each entity involved in water in Kansas has been assigned a color to be used on the chart. So whenever you see that color, it means that agency. The second sheet or the second page, if you're looking at the PDF, has across the top the functions into which each entity are categorized. So that includes water management, water conservation, public water supply, etc. And underneath that first row of functions is each water program. So those are programs within each agency or entity. And as you can see, they're color coded to represent which agency those programs fall into. And on that third sheet, it shows each entity or agency and each function that each entity is involved in. So again, that's the water management and water conservation, et cetera, by agency rather than by program. And finally, that fourth sheet is the same information, entity and function, but just the rows and columns are reversed in case you prefer to look at it that way instead. So same information, just a different viewpoint. And as Representative Hyland mentioned in our last meeting, each of those entities will be presenting to the committee to give an overview of its involvement in water, its budget, and its reporting structure. So you'll have a chance to ask those agencies any questions that might come up during their presentation. Hopefully also you should have found in your email or on the committee page a document called the Water Programs Manual. It lists state and federal agencies or offices that are involved in water in Kansas. And I'm going to turn to that document now, the Programs Manual. I'll give you just a second to pull it up or find it in your email. Okay, and I'll go ahead and start on page 4 of that document. And on page 4, you'll see a chart similar to ours. We have color-coded ours more colorfully. But we have also divided out some of the state agencies into their individual divisions or sub-programs. So for instance, our chart divides the Department of Health and Environment into Bureau of Water, Bureau of Remediation, and Bureau of Environmental Field Services. So ours breaks it out a little more than the chart on page 4 does. In the next few pages, I'm going to go over each of the entities that are listed both on the rainbow chart and in the state agencies section of the programs manual. And I'll go over just a couple of the programs that each agency covers. There's quite a few, so I won't hit them all, but I will try and hit the major ones under each agency. So looking at page 5, we'll start with the Adjutant General's Department, the Division of Emergency Management. And the Adjutant General is generally involved in water when a disaster happens. So they're involved in that first one, mitigation planning, mitigating the effects of flooding, and then also underneath that, disaster assistance, restoration of water supplies and repair of water facilities after a major disaster.
Yeah.
Yes.
May I interrupt for a second?
Of course.
I don't know if everyone has this ability to pull that up while you're speaking. Is there any way you can share your screen?
Sure, you'll just have to bear with me while I scroll and talk at the same time, if that's okay.
No, that's fine. But it would help the group.
Yes. Okay. Can you all see that?
We can, yes.
Hopefully it says biological survey. Perfect.
Thank you.
No problem. So looking at the Kansas Biological Survey under the University of Kansas. Next, one of their, scrolling, there we go. One of their major programs is Reservoir Assessment Program. They provide critical information concerning the status and condition of Kansas reservoirs, including reservoir storage capacity and water quality. The survey also identifies potential problems that result from a decrease in storage capacity and water quality. A second major program under the Kansas Biological Survey is the Harmful Algal Bloom Program. The biosurvey monitors the occurrence and toxicity of harmful blue algae blooms in Kansas reservoirs. The program has three main goals for algal blooms: assess conditions that cause algal blooms, perform large-scale research and mitigation experiments, and investigates and discovers potential management solutions to algal blooms. I'm going to scroll down to the next page. Looking at the Kansas Applied Remote Sensing Program. That program utilizes satellite data and remote sensing systems to more effectively manage natural resources, conduct environmental assessments, and respond to disasters. Scrolling down a little further to the University of Kansas Field Station. The Field Station mission is to foster scholarly research, environmental education, and science-based stewardship of natural resources. This field station divides its lands into two areas: natural areas that are protected from human disturbances so that they can be studied for wildlife, and second, experimental areas in which they can manipulate environmental conditions to conduct further experiments. The next agency is the Kansas Corporation Commission. And I'll just say most of the Corporation Commission's functions relate to protecting water quality while monitoring wells and drilling activities. So you can see that first function or first program, plugging temporary abandoned wells. Oil and gas operators are responsible for proper well plugging, but the KCC issues plugging orders, can levy fines, and conduct spot checking of well plugging operations. Drilling and production, the Corporation Commission also reviews proposed well construction and location to ensure that fresh, usable water and corrective rights are protected. Excuse me. Looking at that program on the left, underground porosity gas storage, that's also just to point out that the KCC not only regulates oil and gas, or oil wells, but they also regulate natural gas storage. On the right-hand side of that page, abandoned well plugging and site remediation. The Corporation Commission addresses the problem of abandoned oil and gas wells and remediation sites. Looking next at the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture provides for inspecting, registering, and sampling fertilizer and pesticide products in the state to ensure proper usage and ensuring that each user is licensed. Now looking at the Department of Agriculture's Division of Conservation. That first program, Aid to Conservation Districts, provides matching financial assistance to local conservation districts, up to $25,000 for each conservation district. That next program, the Water Resources Cost Share Program, provides financial incentives to landowners for the establishment of conservation practices that reduce soil erosion, improve or protect water quality, and enhance water supplies. Non-point source pollution control program. The program provides technical and financial assistance to implement non-point source pollution control measures for the protection and restoration of surface and groundwater. So an example of non-point source pollution control, you guys are probably aware, includes pesticide runoff and urban runoff. So anything that might come from not the area immediately adjacent to the body of water. Riparian and Wetland Protection Program. This program protects, enhances, and restores wetlands and associated habitats. to show the effectiveness of stream functions, water quality, and wildlife benefits, and to increase knowledge and awareness of landowners on the value and benefits of natural areas. Those two programs that you can see on the right, the Sediment Nutrient Reduction Initiative and the Water Quality Buffer Initiative, are very similar programs, and they both provide state incentives supplemental to federal incentives to encourage the establishment of forest buffers and vegetative filter strips. And on page 11 now, the State Assistance to Watershed Dam Construction. This program provides cost share assistance for the construction of flood control, detention, and grade stabilization dams for organized water and drainage districts. On the bottom right, the Water Supply Restoration Program. Funds are used to renovate infrastructure and protect lakes, which are used directly as a source of water for public water supply systems. On the left-hand side, the Water Right Transition Assistance Program provides a mechanism for permanent retirement of irrigation water rights and the reduction of consumptive use of groundwater. Moving on now to the Department of Agriculture's Division of Water Resources. The Division of Water Resources is composed of 3 programs: Water Appropriation, Water Structures, and Water Management Services. That Water Appropriation Program administers rules and regulations pertaining to water rights. So this includes processing new applications for water rights, filing an annual water use report, which monitors and inventories water use, and also administering multi-year flex accounts in which landowners obtain a 5-year permit that temporarily replaces an existing water right. Just note that this doesn't change the total amount of water, just how much a landowner can use per year. Looking at the Water Structures Program on page 14. The Water Structures Program regulates man-made alterations to streams and floodplains. This includes dams, stream obstructions or channel changes, so new or modified stream obstructions such as bridges, low water crossings, intake structures, boat ramps, etc. And the final sub-program within the Division of Water Resources, Water Management Services Program. This program represents Kansas on the 4 interstate compacts by providing technical data, analysis, and modeling to determine whether Kansas and neighboring states are complying with compact terms. The technical services are things like monitoring, assisting, and administering minimum desirable stream flows. Excuse me. The next agency is the Department of Commerce. Their first major program is the Community Development Block Grant. This program provides funds for the construction or renovation of water and sewer systems, housing, bridges and roads, community centers, and fire stations. Looking at the Department of Health and Environment, the Bureau of Environmental Field Services. That first program, Watershed Management. aims to use non-point source pollution control measures. The program specifically provides technical assistance to public and private sector organizations in identifying non-point source pollution problems and creates an action plan to correct those problems. Looking at that program on the right of page 16, Watershed Restoration Protection Strategy, or RAPS, provides a planning and management framework intended to engage stakeholders in a process to identify watershed restoration and protection needs. The program focuses on improving water quality, protecting public water supply, flooding issues, and habitat protection or restoration. Moving to KDHE's Bureau of Environmental Remediation. This bureau provides overall program planning, policy, and decision-making, and the implementation of administrative, financial, contractual, and budgetary procedures for the bureau. If you look at the right-hand side, State Water Plan Contamination Remediation Program. This program addresses sites where a responsible party is not known or is not viable, and where there are no state, federal, or other funding sources available to complete required investigation and cleanup activities. Looking at the left-hand side, still under environmental remediation, the Site Assessment Program uses federal funding to investigate complaints from local governments and the public. And I would just like to point out the right-hand side of this page and the next couple of pages all deal with underground and above ground storage tank regulation. So that's a major part of KDHE's environmental remediation division. Looking at the left-hand side of page 20, the Dry Cleaning Trust Fund and also the Dry Cleaning Program. KDHE established a trust fund financed by fees on the industry to provide funding for remediation of contamination by dry cleaning facilities. The program aims to reduce future contamination, which includes measures like requiring secondary containment under all dry cleaning machines, documentation of inspections, and maintenance activities. Looking at KDHE's Bureau of Water, the Water Quality Monitoring and Assessment Program is responsible for determining the nature and extent of water quality in Kansas. That includes analyzing the existing designated use of streams, lakes, and wetlands, and acquiring data from surface water of the state. The Watershed Planning Program, or Total Maximum Daily Loads, that's TMDL. This program identifies surface waters that are impaired by poor water quality in their ability to support their designated uses. The program establishes the current and desired levels of pollutant loading in surface waters of the state. On the right-hand side of page 21, the Public Water Supply Program provides regulatory oversight and technical assistance to public water supply systems to assure safe potable water to Kansas residents. The program trains water supply system operators, inspects public water supplies, and samples water to ensure acceptable levels. KDHE's Bureau of Waste Management, in short, is responsible for issuing permits for both hazardous waste and solid waste, and ensuring proper disposal of hazardous waste and solid waste and storage of both, in short. The next entity is the Kansas Department of Wildlife, Parks, and Tourism. As you can imagine, this is one of the agencies that falls heavily in the recreation function that you'll find on the rainbow chart. So that first program, Land and Water Conservation Fund. Funds for this program are used for land acquisition and recreation programs to preserve, develop, and ensure access to outdoor recreation resources for all citizens. On page 24, the left-hand side, Community Fisheries Assistance. This program provides public lakes with technical assistance and financial assistance to enhance fishery resources and associated recreational opportunities. The department conducts surveys of fisheries, on the right-hand side, that Habitat First program. Private landowners can receive technical assistance for wildlife habitat conservation. On the top of the left-hand side, stream access. This program is designated to provide a systematic approach to implementing general access to navigable Kansas streams. This program's goal is to increase angling and recreational use. On the right-hand side, the Walk-in Hunting Access Program provides hunting access on private properties. Landowners receive a payment in exchange for allowing public hunting access. The next entity, the Kansas Forest Survey, that is run through the Kansas State University. The Streamside Forestry Program promotes the protection, management, and establishment of forests and priority watersheds to stabilize stream banks and improve water quality and quantity. On the left-hand side, the Fire Management Program provides education in fire prevention, suppression, and prescribed burnings. The next entity, the Kansas Geological Survey through the University of Kansas. Their first major program is the High Plains Aquifer Evaluation. The Geological Survey provides technical information and new research results regarding various aspects of the aquifer, including monitoring declines in groundwater levels, modeling of groundwater flows, and a sustainability assessment. Still under the Kansas Geological Survey, the Stream Aquifer Interactions monitors the relationship between major waterways and adjacent aquifers, develops computer models for surface and groundwater hydrology, and studies groundwater consumption. The next program, K-State Research and Extension. Water Conservation and Management Programs conducts comprehensive statewide research and extension programs in water conservation and management in agriculture. The goal of K-State Research and Extension in general is to conserve and protect natural resources while maintaining the economic, competitiveness and profitability of agriculture. Programs generally focus on irrigation management, conservation, tillage, crop residue management, and livestock water utilization. Still under research and K-State Research and Extension, the Water Quality Program conducts research focusing on watershed assessment, planning and management, and non-point source pollution prevention in agriculture. On the right-hand side of page 30, the RAPS technical team. RAPS falls under KDHE, and again, that stands for Watershed Restoration and Protection Strategy Program. So RAPS technical team under K-State. The team provides assistance for all phases of RAPS, including development, assessment, planning, and implementation. Then the next entity, the Kansas Water Office. Their water marketing program purchases water supply storage in federal reservoirs in Kansas. The Water Assurance Program, right underneath that, utilizes that bought storage in federal reservoirs to help meet the needs of municipal and industrial water rights holders. Assurance districts, as they're called, have purchased storage in a specific reservoir that is operated by the state. The districts pay for their share of the purchase and operation and maintenance of storage, as well as an administration and enforcement charge by the state. On the right-hand side of page 34, the Geographic Information Systems Policy Board. The board refers to computer technology to utilize geographic location utilize geographic location as the organizing theme around which data and information can be linked and integrated. The primary goals of the board are to reduce the redundant development of geographic databases, coordinate multi-organizational and jurisdictional database requirements, and to maximize the value and benefit of geographic information systems technology. And what I would probably call one of the highlights, or one of the most important programs under the Kansas Water Office, is state water planning. The Kansas Water Office develops the Kansas Water Plan for the management, conservation, and development of water resources. So it really is the coordination entity for other state agencies. They'll tell you that they are the planning and somewhat the policy entity for water in Kansas, because they include the Kansas Water Authority, and that's the advisory committee for the governor and the legislature. And lastly, on page 36, the drought monitoring and response. The Water Office is charged with the developing guidelines which indicate when drought conditions exist in the state of Kansas. So I know that was a lot. Essentially what the rainbow chart is based on that program's manual that I just walked you through. So that's why we wanted to hit several of the larger programs so that you can understand, have some background on the rainbow chart. The rest of the program's manual is federal agencies, but federal agencies are not included in the organizational rainbow chart. So I decided to go over the state agencies. And
Victoria.
Thank you. I will stop sharing my screen, hopefully.
That hopefully that raised a lot of questions with our members. The purpose here was not to put you to sleep, but it was to remind you of the complexity of the water across our state. And we will be dealing with each one of these agencies on that first page, the key, one at a time, which means that the document that Victoria just took you through, I would suggest you make that save it on your desktop so that when you come into the meeting next time, when we start going by these agencies, that you can click on that and follow along and see what their duties are. You can ask questions. And if they leave out an area, then we'll ask them why they're leaving that out. But anyway, I'm going to suggest that. Now, if your office assistant cannot help you putting that on your desktop, we can do that on Thursday morning. So don't worry about it. We'll help you do that on Thursday morning so that it'll be available to you at any time you want to go back and refer to it. Do you have any questions at this point of Victoria? Do you know how to raise your hand over on the participant section? Put your mouse beside your name, you'll see a little hand. You can click that. Either you're all asleep or there are no questions. Representative Riley, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Will there be a time, I think you saw the chat I said to you, but will there be a time that we will come back and visit some of the information on those abandoned water and oil wells and that information? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir. We will be following the key down through these different agencies, and when they come in, they will go in detail on each of those areas that Victoria highlighted as their responsibility. So yes, we will be going into that to include the numbers across the state that have not been plugged and who's responsible and all of those details. Other questions? Representative Haswood, please go ahead.
Looks like she's having connection problems.
Okay. Representative Haswood, you are muted, so we cannot hear you. We'll move on to...
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Representative Elizabeth Bishop, and I can't find the little hand you were talking about, so I jumped in. I don't have a lot of specific questions right now, but as I listened to the overview, I noted a number of areas that reminded me of issues that we have in South Central Kansas, notably the ones about dry cleaner pollution, the area about RAPS. That's been a big issue in the Arkansas River watershed area, and a number of others. The Kansas Geological Survey and quite frankly, the earthquakes that we're having right here in my neighborhood, and whether or not there's a connection with deep groundwater injection wells. We understand not, but I'm definitely interested in delving into that further. So there's a number of bookmarks that I've made that I probably will want to return to or when the time is appropriate. Thank you.
We will get to those, Representative Bishop. That's all part of our learning process as we go through this. Just to jump ahead a little bit, tomorrow we're going to look at the special committee report from 2020. And as a result of all the flooding, there's some of these things that have come to light. We will just go through that. And then as we go through each agency, we will highlight exactly what you're talking about in the areas of the state. The KDHE is responsible for the dry cleaner pollution. We'll look at that. We've got several areas that we'll be looking at, and they all involve water. It's a fascinating area, so we will get there. I see that we have Representative Haswood. Are you able to speak to us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering, Victoria, do you know where with tribal water rights, does this fall under, or does it kind of spread everywhere? Often have on the federal agency side.
You're muted, Victoria.
Sorry, I didn't want to make noise. Sorry. It's not an issue that I am familiar with, but I'd be happy to look into that for you.
Thank you, Victoria. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for the question, and Victoria will get back to us on the tribal waters. It is covered within in the statute, so we'll talk about that. The second, Representative Vaughn.
Chairman, just a quick question. I was wondering if there is a list that we can use for the scientific terms that are commonly used. Some of them were like environmental remediation, non-point source pollution, hydrology, things like that, that we can refer to.
You were breaking up, but you're asking if there is a glossary for the terminology. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, some of the scientific terminology that was used today, just like non-point source pollution, environmental remediation, things like that.
I will ask Victoria if she can put that together. Can you do that, Victoria?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, it's a list I also keep for myself, so I can definitely share that with the committee.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the question. Any other questions? I see none. Whoop. Representative Minix, please.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that I have a well within a township that was measured by the U.S. Geological Survey here about a week and a half ago. They do an excellent job of taking measurements across, at least in western Kansas, on the Ogallala Aquifer, and giving us a good model of what's happening there. So thank you.
Thank you. And we will be getting into that. Tomorrow, I told you what we're going to do. Thursday, the last one on the list was the Kansas Water Office. They will be coming in and giving us an overview. And they're talking, and I've asked them to talk to us about the Water Vision Plan, the governor's Water Vision Plan that was established to talk about what's predicted over the next 20, 30, 50 years. So next week, I'm going to have the geological overview of the waters in our state, underground and above ground. So that will give us, we'll start from the top and work down. So we'll go from there. And any other questions at this time? Representative Jennings.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know that we are not a budget committee, but I also know that there have been some recommendations by the governor with respect to budget for a number of water associated agencies. And I wonder if we might ask those agencies when making presentations to provide us some detail on the governor's recommendations for their budgets so that we can understand what priority the governor's putting on water in the state.
Excellent. And that's exactly one of the items that as each agency comes in, I am requiring them to discuss budget with us. You're right, we're not a budget committee, but that does not mean that we cannot make recommendation or even submit a bill to the legislature. That's well within our prerogative to do so. So we will take a close look at all budgets and the needs, and we will help whenever we can. Thanks for that. Anybody else? I did not mean to overwhelm you today, but I wanted to give you a quick overview of everything we're going to be looking at. It will be complex as we drill down and go through this. But every agency will come in, they will give us their mission statement. They will explain to us how they do what they do and what they're responsible for. And included in that, as Representative Jennings suggested, will be their budget and who their reporting functions are, so that by the time we're done, we will know where everybody reports to, what their budgets are, and what they do. And you will be the most knowledgeable people in the state when it comes to water, so hang on. Whenever you're quizzed by the press, we have no predefined object to this committee. We will look at everything and then make our recommendations when we are finished. So there are no preconceived ideas or notions as to what we're doing. I want to reiterate that because I'm getting those questions constantly, and there are a lot of people worried that we're going to mess with their little sandbox. That's not the intention, but we will look at things very carefully with your help. Any other questions? Also, we will take a quick look. I'm inviting the water attorney, the specialist from Washburn University, to give us an overview of water law. It's a complicated area, but you need to have an overview of it. So hopefully that will be in next week's agenda as well. The agenda will be coming out tomorrow, but we have one bill in the committee. It happens to be my bill, so the vice chair will have to take over that day. But we'll try to work that in. It won't take long to work that bill. I mean, won't take long to have the hearing on that bill. The working may be a different story. So if there's nothing further from anyone, Victoria, do you have anything?
Not that I can think of, Mr. Chairman. Just anyone is welcome to reach out with questions at any time.
Thank you. Revisers, anything? Zach? Okay.
Nothing from me, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you all for attending. We had a few complications in the beginning, but it seems to have worked out pretty well. Stay safe, and we'll see you again tomorrow. This meeting is adjourned.